The most important bit to really excel at is the mindset side of things rather than the strategy, because that will come with time. And when you've got the right mindset and some experience, you'll develop many strategies that can work.
Two traders, Darren and Walter, pull back the curtain on profitable trading systems, consistent money management, and profitable psychological triggers. Welcome to the Two Traders podcast.
Welcome to Two Traders. It's Walter here, and I've got Darren. Hello, Darren. How are you today?
I'm pretty good, Walter. Nice to see you again, or hear you.
Yeah, excellent. Hear you, yeah. So this is the one that we've been thinking about, is the comparison between the two traders. The trader who has a really solid, profitable mindset, whatever that means, versus the trader who has a really profitable system. Who's going to come out ahead here? What's your thought?
Well, I think you'd have to say that both of them are in the same boat, really, because they're both missing one of the important cornerstones. If we're assuming the trader with a brilliant strategy hasn't got the right trading mindset, then sooner or later he's going to come unstuck, because strategies don't work forever, and at some point you're going to need to make some adjustments or changes. And if you haven't got the right mindset, you're not going to know how to deal with that, likely to make mistakes. At the same time, you could argue if you've got a really good trading mindset and you haven't got a great strategy, then you're not going to make any money anyway. But you could argue if you've got the right mindset, it is really only a matter of time and trial and error before you kind of home in on something that's going to work for you. So really, there are two parts of the whole, and you kind of need the mindset and the strategy. And you can argue that essentially good trading strategies are really simple things, but understanding what is making those simple things work and then being able to implement them to make money consistency is another thing altogether. So yeah, I'd say they both need each other, really.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. It reminds me of when I was at university, I became aware of a bet. And this bet was one of our professors had an assistant, and she was like my girlfriend, right? And so she told me that this professor had said that there was some discussion which student would do better. Would it be me or this other guy who's my good friend? And everyone clearly knew that my good friend, he was like this super intelligent guy, right? But he wasn't really that motivated. And then there was me, where I was like really motivated. I wanted to go to graduate school and wanted to do a PhD in psychology, but I didn't really have the smarts that he had. So the question was, it was kind of a similar question, which was, who's going to make it through, and get their PhD or do great things or whatever. And I don't really think that I've probably devalued education since I've gone through the whole system. I think that there are a lot of things that we don't know, and we pretend like we know them in the way that we teach students and things like that. And that goes all the way up, from what I saw, all the way up to the PhD level. There's some sort of academic arrogance, which I think needs to be squashed out, but that's a totally different discussion. So the point is that was a similar bet, and what ended up happening was my friend, he didn't make it. He went to graduate school. He got into a bunch of graduate schools. He went to his PhD for 1 year, and then he quit. And then I obviously eventually got out and did it and all that. So it's kind of an interesting point, because it's like he kind of had this system, right? He had like this brilliant system, which was his brain, his mind. And I didn't have that, but I had like the motivation or the desire or whatever, and he clearly didn't have that. So, and I don't really know what you define as success, but in this case it would have been, I suppose, getting through and doing your, getting your education and getting your piece of paper or whatever. But I think if I had to choose, because I agree, you're right, there's a little bit lost on both sides, isn't there? But for me, I would probably go with the one that has the mindset. And the reason why I say that is because I get a lot of emails from people who say something like this, Darren. And I don't know if you've heard this, but they'll say something like, I heard that so-and-so is making X percentage a month or a week or a day or whatever it is. is this really even possible? Or something like, how much can you make? What's possible to make in the Forex markets? Can you make the X percentage a day or a year or a week or whatever it is? And what's clearly happening, and sometimes it's a little bit more obvious than other times, but when you read the email, you know exactly what's happening here. Is the person, the trader, is coming up against their mental barriers because they're saying, well, so-and-so is making 3% a week. Like, that's like 150% a year. That's not, you can't do that, or whatever. What they're not realizing, I believe, is that they're already in a box. We were, everyone here, everyone listening, me, you, everyone, we're already in a box that we've already defined based on our beliefs that this is possible, or that's not possible, or you can do this, or you can't do that, or whatever. And it's hard for us to be aware of it. It's like the fish in the fishbowl. It's like you don't really know where the end of the universe is, but it's there. It's there. And so I think if I had to choose, I would rather be the trader that had the mindset and had no clue, because in the end, I think that trader will work it out and get through the finish line. I could be wrong, but that's kind of my belief. Because just because you have a system doesn't mean it's going to work. There are some traders out there who have good friends who do really, really well trading, but they can't make that system work. And I think it's because the system probably doesn't mesh up with what they believe in. And it also could be that maybe they don't think that it's possible to make the amount of money that their friend is making or whatever. So I think I would have to go with mindset. But I agree. I mean, it's tricky. I mean, you do need both. You have, like, the guy with a great mindset, he eventually has to find a trading system. But I think he will. I think that eventually he will get it. Yeah.
And I think it's really difficult to say this is the answer to that question as well, because I think that unknown element of the individual comes into it. And then you've got elements like luck. And let's say, for instance, you had a strategy, and for the next 5 years, the market conditions would just happen to be perfect for that strategy. You would be assuming that it's your brilliant strategy and your execution that made you all of that money. And it might be something completely out of your control that you're not even factoring to your trading results. And there's so many elements like that. It's always, I think, the more I learn, the more I realize it's very hard to give definitive answers to a lot of the big questions in trading. So, it's like a constant, pitch is constantly changing and shifting, and as you become more experienced, you kind of learn to notice that quicker and react to it quicker. And, it might be that you've got a strategy that allows for those kind of changes, and, it's not affected. So, it's really hard to kind of pin down exactly what we need to do to be a trader and make a living, and build a career out of it over a long time. But certainly, mindset and strategy are the kind of two big ballparks, really.
Yeah, if you, like, for example, if you had somebody who had no rules or guidelines or anything and was just in there picking off trades, I mean, we can both probably see where it's going to go. Especially if you're not familiar with the emotions of the market, you could just get obliterated. And many of us who've done that have basically come in and said, well, okay, where's the Swissy going today? Is the Swissy going up or is the Swissy going down? I'll just figure that out and take a trade. Like, that just doesn't work.
And the thing is, as well, we all think we've got a good trading mindset as well, because we're not going to think that we haven't. Generally, the sort of people that are involved in trading generally consider ourselves to be a little bit smarter than we are, and a little bit more skilled, and our strategy to be, better than it actually is, even if we've got data that disagrees with that. So do you know whether you've got a good mindset or not? You might think you have, but you might be making mistakes and then glossing over them to make yourself feel better. All of that stuff is going on in the background as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And the big one is, this is a big thing that we all do when we talk about other people, is the fundamental attribution error. So you say so-and-so's, and if you don't know someone well, or if it's not you, then you say so-and-so did that because he's an idiot, right? That's why he did that. He's an idiot. So you blame the person, the personality. It's a characteristic of the person. But if you know them, or if it's you, you say, well, I did that, or my brother did that because, it was raining outside. That's why he did that. He wasn't trying to be an idiot. It was just raining. It was the situation he was in. So you blame the environment or the situation. The same thing I think can happen with your trading systems, to your point, which is that if you have a trading system and you believe in it, you say, well, this is a great trading system. It has a 62% win rate. It blah, blah, blah. It makes, 2-to-1 reward to risk and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And then someone points out, well, wait a minute. What happened last year? It didn't, it was basically break even. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, well, last year was a tough year. The market was choppy or what, you know what I mean? So you're blaming the situation. And that kind of drifts through, like in life, you'll notice people, we do that all day long. Like if someone's close to us, we'll make excuses and blame the situation. And if a trading system is close to us, we'll make excuses, we'll blame the situation. But when it comes down to it, if we don't know them or don't like them, then or we don't like a trading system, then we'll just say that that's inherently wrong or bad or poor or whatever. So that's just, that's something to be aware of as people. That's how we think, and it's a tricky one to get away from. I guess the best thing is just to be aware that you're doing it and know that, this fundamental attribution error is slowly sneaking into my thinking.
Yeah, and on the subject of the strategy side of things, is there such a thing really as a strategy that all you need to do is implement the strategy and it's always going to work? I mean, can you build enough rules in there that it will work out the market condition and whether to trade or not trade, and when to adjust your take profit and how much you risk? Can you build all of that based around rules, or is that even possible? Or at some point does there need to be that kind of discretion, is what we call it, that sort of feel and that gut feel? The market looks right today, but I just I'm not feeling this entry, so I'm going to leave it, and do all those little elements. What I'm saying is, do the successful traders just have this innate ability to feel the market?
Yeah, the programmers, the guys who are running EAs and robots, they'll tell you that you can do that you can create a system that does all that. But I think the good ones will tell you that it's usually simple rules that work. So in other words, they don't have all these rules like don't do this if it's Friday morning, and do this if the volatility is too much, or they don't have. It's more simple stuff, I think, from what I understand, which makes sense, right? I mean, it makes sense, yeah. Yeah,
and they will be more robust. But our natural inclination is to not believe that, even when it's not true that more complex systems are less robust. Your gut feeling leads you to believe, if I just had a rule to sort of gauge the trend, that would make all of the difference. And we always think it's just kind of missing one extra rule, rather than accepting that all approaches are going to have periods of winning and losing. And if you've got a good approach and a good mindset and the market conditions are right, then you stand a good chance of making profit. I mean, this is why, as much as I love backtesting, I'm really dubious about giving too much weight to the results, because they're just showing you, okay, in this period, if you'd have traded that rule set, you would have either done well or bad, and this is what your drawdown would have been. But going forward, then you're going to be presented with, it might even look like exactly the same market conditions, but they might just be a slight variance in there that's throwing things out. So you do have to kind of stay nimble and on your feet. And my trading periods last year just absolutely sucked. And at the same time, we were doing lots of backtesting. All the backtesting said that long-term expectancy is really good for this, but there are periods where it doesn't work too well, and there's drawdowns, but they're never that bad. And, even coming into this year, it's really struggling to make consistent profits, winning some and giving it back. And you can't just do that backtest, get a good backtest result and think, okay, my work here is done, because it just isn't going to be like that. So, even when you're settled on how you want to trade and you've worked on your mindset, you need to be aware that at some point down the line, you're going to have to make more difficult decisions, and you're going to perhaps have to make changes, and so it is like a completely ongoing scenario. It certainly is for me. You might disagree with me, Walter, but that's how I'm sort of picturing trading as I go forward now.
Well, I think the thing to guard against, and I strongly believe that this is an issue for many traders, is they will adapt and change based on a really small sample size. And I think that's a big mistake. So, for example, if I say January was crap, okay, January was really bad for my system, well, how many trades did I take in January? Okay, so does that mean because I had 15 bad trades in January that I need to redevelop and change and morph the system that I've been trading for 10 years and I've backtested over 900 trades and blah, blah, blah? Is that really what I need to do? Or, like I said, or do I scratch it up to, okay, this was just a bad month, and we know that those happen, like you were saying. I think too many traders make the mistake of taking a short-term point of view where they look at maybe the last trade or the last 5 trades or the last 10 trades, and they decide that based on what happened there, they need to change something. And so I think the key is to look at it in chunks. So chunks of 50 trades, chunks of 100 trades. Look at the chunks, and then we could probably talk about this idea in a different podcast. But the real comparison to see if things are going well is whether or not the chunk of data you have is acceptable. Was it within the range that you would accept as coming from the same population that your back-tested results or your past results came from. Does that make sense? That's how I see it.
Yeah, and that's not really something that you can strategize for. So that kind of falls into the realms of having the right mindset, basically, the right understanding of how the market works and what it really is, and what you can expect from your strategy. That's a mindset thing, yeah.
Yeah. But what a lot of traders will do is they'll go, okay, January was crap, so I'm going to add this filter if it's below the 50 moving average, or okay, well, the weekly chart's going to have to identify the trend for me, so then I'll drop down to my lower time. Or they do things like that, and it's like, wait. You've spent this many trades trading it, done this much testing, and now all of a sudden January was crap, so you're going to throw it out the window. That to me is crazy. And maybe I'm not quick enough to dump a system that's gone bad. And we can probably talk about this in our next episode if you want, where we talk about how do you know when a system stops working. But I think for me, I would rather rely on the bulk of data that I have and just stay the course rather than trying to adjust on the fly, which I think is something that it's really tempting to do, especially when you're in a drawdown. It's really tempting to scroll back and go, okay, well, hang on, what if I had done this? And that's how you add too many rules to a system, in my estimation.
Yeah, I think I see more and more traders have been around and have achieved some sort of level of consistency. I do see a lot of them now when they're having a bad period, having a break at least. And I think that is as much just to be able to sort of consider what's going on and have a bit of a breather rather than making a sort of some bad decisions by continuing to trade. And that's not that the strategy, wouldn't protect them, but I think really more for a mindset thing again, where they've had perhaps a larger string of losses than is usual, and they just kind of have a bit of a breather, a sabbatical from the charts, if you like. I follow a trader who trades gold who's been solidly good for 4 or 5 years, and now just recently he's taken some large losses, and a couple of them, and he's just having a break for that. And I think that can be quite a good rule to sort of add. So I think his maximum loss is 7%, and he had 2 of these 7% losses, which is quite a large loss for the amount he gains. And he's just having a complete break, and I think sometimes that can be a good rule to add. And I think the idea is that what you should do is just keep trading, because you've got your back tests, and you're this is a normal drawdown, and it should come good. But I think there's something to be said for having that kind of mental break from it and just taking all the risk off the table for a bit, taking a breath, consider the results and the losses with a clear mind, and then coming back to it. So I think a simple rule like that sometimes work. And like you say, the worst thing to do is just instantly chuck the strategy out and then continue trading with another strategy, because you're more likely to make a lot of mistakes then.
Yeah, I agree. What I used to do was if I had a drawdown, I'd go, okay, I'm not going to trade. I'm just going to go off and back test. But what I found was I've come to the same idea, which is it's actually a better idea to simply don't back test. Don't even look at the charts. The more time I spend away from the charts, the better I am when I see the charts. So I think it's worth it to take, even if it's just like 3 or 4 days away from the charts, and then when you see them again, it's like it's fresh. And because you kind of have some theories. Like if you look at the charts, say for you, for example, in the London time zone, if you go, all right, I'm going to go to sleep and I have a pretty good idea of what might happen overnight during the Asian session. So when I wake up, I have a pretty good idea of it's probably either going to do this or that, but that's probably it. It's either going to do this or that, And you wake up and you look and you say, yeah, well, there it is, and it kind of did what I was expecting. And then you can fire off your trades. But what happens when you're away from the charts for like 3 or 4 days is things have happened and it's in a totally different spot than it was before, and everything's fresh, and you kind of see it with it's almost like you don't have any skin in the game. You don't really have any expectations that's what I like about not looking at the charts during Asia. So if I just look at the charts in the morning and then I don't look at them until London Open, I really like that because I don't really know what happens during Asia, and it's nice to kind of see them from a fresh perspective when London opens. I think I've noticed the longer I can stay away from the charts, the better off I am when I actually sit down and look at the charts. But I don't know if that's normal, but that's how it is for me.
Yeah. Do we, in general, spend too much time talking and thinking about trading? Do we trade too much? Is it kind of too straining on the brain, the amount of time and thought process we put in it? And do we need to do more of that, having a break, like you say?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think it's like many things. After a while, you just can't maintain that vigilance. After a while, if you're driving through the guts of Australia, after a while, staying on that straight road, that you've been on for 3 days or whatever, like it's tough to stay between the lines, And I think it's the same thing with trading. I think, you can maintain that focus for so long, and then after a while, it's not going to work. And I think that's why the best scalpers, they have really rigid rules about the times that they're going to trade. They're going to trade between this hour and this hour, and they're going to take X number of trades maximum and that sort of thing. And they're very regimented. And I think that other traders can learn from that, this idea that, and I don't think it's a mistake that a lot of these traders who trade sort of shorter time frames, they sort of have a background in athletics or something like that, where they're very disciplined and very focused and able to get into the right mindset. I find that fascinating. So I agree. I think that overall, we could probably do a lot of good if we were just able to give ourselves a break and freshen things up. Even if it just means like maybe you just don't look at one chart. So for example, maybe you really like trading the Kiwi. Maybe you don't even look at the USD Kiwi for a month. And then you come back and look at it after a month, where you've literally have no idea where it's at. Things like that can really help too. So I would stress to the listeners that, and it's really hard when you first start trading. You want to read everything about trading, you want to learn everything you can about trading, but as you go further on down the line, you get to the point where you feel like you just need to focus, and you need to be really, really on when you're focusing, and then after that, it doesn't really matter. I just got an email this morning from a trader who he said, I'm leaving the private forum. Here's why. Starting to get these really big winning trades, and I've just learned that I need to rely on myself, and I don't want to get distracted. And it's easy to see all these different things and get distracted. And I completely agree. I thought for him it was a great decision. He's been working at this for a long time, and he's finally got to that point where he feels like he knows he can rely on himself. He knows he can make it work. He just needs to focus and stay away from all the stuff on the edges. And so I thought that was a great idea. But these are the sorts of things that I think they come with time, with experience, I suppose, as a trader.
Yeah, definitely. I do suffer from that. Sometimes I just need to stop all of the talk, stop reading the articles, stop watching the videos and the webinars, and just, completely switch off from it. You get this kind of information overload and stuff that you don't even want to be taken into account. You're kind of looking, it's slipping into the back of your mind when you're trading. So yeah, you definitely need that break. So we're kind of agreed really that the most important bit to really excel at is the mindset side of things rather than the strategy, because that will come with time. And when you've got the right mindset and some experience, you'll develop many strategies that can work. And are we in agreement there that it's the mindset?
Yeah.
Cool. And so what's the best way to get a good trading mindset? What's the quickest way?
What's the quickest way? Yeah. I think it's to I really think it's to think like a casino, because a casino doesn't care if they have a 2% edge, right? If the slot machines, if the one-armed bandits or the pokies, as they call them here in Australia, if they pay out 98% of the money that goes through there, but the casino's just keeping 2%, they know that's okay. So it's the same thing for a trader. If a trader has a 1-to-1 reward-to-risk ratio and has a 52% win rate, that trader has that slim 2% edge, but that's the mindset that you need, that you have to keep as a trader, and keeping that long-term focus and not worried about the last 10 trades, not worried about the last month, last week, the last day. That doesn't matter. What matters is the long-term performance and that you focus on execution. So to me, having that long-term point of view and the focus on execution, that's what works for trading. If you get away from that, and you get sloppy with your execution, or you change it up, and so you're changing the way that you're executing, in other words, changing your system, or if you're too focused on the immediate recent results, then I think that's where you run into trouble. So it's kind of like playing a game. So you know that a certain number of times you're going to roll the die, and it's going to come up great, and you're going to win, and sometimes you're going to lose, and you just know that you have to keep rolling that die. Now I know that there's the issue that you're probably going to bring up, which is you might run into a situation where your system doesn't work anymore, and we can talk about that in a future podcast. But that's definitely an issue. That's definitely an issue. I mean, you can't keep rolling the die if the system's broken, and that's a concern.
Yeah, and systems do stop working as well, don't they?
Yeah, especially the ones that have more moving parts. So it's like that idea that you brought up in a long ago podcast, right? The anti-fragile idea that the book is a really robust thing, and the not the iPad, but what is it? The Kindle can break down. Yeah, because it has so many different parts and weaknesses and things like that, whereas a book is fairly robust. I think the same thing goes for systems. It doesn't mean they won't break down. It just means that the simple, robust system that says, that you can explain in one sentence is probably going to be better off than the one that has 2 paragraphs and, if then, caveat this, caveat that, and that sort of stuff. Yeah. So what do you think, Darren? What would you say? Like, how do you get that mindset?
I think there's a lot of ways, a lot of places that you can learn from. There's a lot of information on the internet, lots of books you can read, good forums you can join with other traders, and chatting to them teaches you a lot. But I think if I needed to say, if I was going to teach my daughter to trade, I would tell her to keep a journal and keep a daily diary about how your trading went, what mistakes you went, what mistakes you made, what your results were. And I think that's the quickest way to learn the pitfalls and where you're making the mistakes. as a simple tool. I think that's a simple tool you can use. And so, for instance, if the problem with your mindset is that you're always taking profit early, you might be doing that for a long time and not even cotton on to the fact that that's what's happening. But if you keep a daily journal or some sort of record keeping, and there's websites now with automated spreadsheets and that are really good for journaling, and those will, if you use them properly and you read them and use the data that they're giving you, you'll realize quickly that there's certain mistakes that you're prone to that's specific to you. And that will, I think that's a really good way of improving your trading mindset.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Darren. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to next time. Maybe we can talk about systems that stop working and how you know that your system's all is time to be buried. Maybe we can talk about that next time.
Cool. Okay, Walter. See you soon.
See you.